Hey y'all, this is Jennah Sears, your favorite North Texas realtor, and we are back for another episode of your favorite podcast, Come Home with Jennah. Today, we are going to be answering some of your questions. We're going to be touching on some vocab that we realtors kind of take for granted that you sweet buyers and sellers know, but you might not. And I just kind of want to review some terms with you and tell you how to use those terms so that when you are ready to buy or sell, you know what to ask and you know what I am talking about when you call me. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about TREC. I reference TREC all the time. There's two things I say constantly. Well, TREC says, and no, I'm not a lawyer. And TREC says I am not a lawyer. So TREC is, what are they? They're the Texas Real Estate Commission. They are in charge of all things real estate in the state of Texas. So they oversee licensing for not only brokers and sales agents, but also for inspectors and appraisers. So let's get into why they do that for a little bit. So the reason that we are licensed via TREC is because of you. So their job is to make sure that consumers, those who are buying, selling, renting, having anything to do in the land of real estate are protected. And they make sure that I know as an agent what notices to give you, what information to equip you with, and they govern how I go about doing my business and how I represent you. Why? Because we all want a fair and equitable market, and this keeps an even playing field. So they're all about protecting you. So they are going to make sure that my hours, there's continuing education for me every year that has to be completed. They're going to offer courses. They are going to decide which courses count towards those hours and which don't. There are a lot of hours involved in getting your real estate license and your broker's license as well. And they also, if you have a college degree prior to going to real estate classes, they decide what hours count towards your real estate hours and what don't, what degrees count and what don't. They're the boss, man. They are the boss. They meet a few times a year, and we have representatives from all over the state that come in. They meet together and we decide what needs to be clarified, because first and foremost, I am not a lawyer. And that is really the key thing to remember when you are talking to your real estate agent or your broker. Yes, we are writing up contracts, but they are promulgated forms. And that means that TREC has approved them and they have instructed us and told us how to play in those forms, or fill them out correctly, or best represent you through those forms. If you want some special addendum written, that's when you call your real estate attorney. If you're upset about something, you've went through a mediation process, and you don't like the outcome, that's when you call your real estate attorney. That's not where I play. I play in the forms that TREC gives me. I build relationships, I build communities, and I represent your wishes. So my job isn't to get you a house or sell your house quickly. My job is to provide you with the information and execute that wish that comes from that information. So your wish, you're the boss. Remember, you're always the boss. So let's talk a little bit about inspectors. There are 3 different types of licenses that TREC gives to inspectors. You would start as an apprentice inspector. They must be sponsored and directly supervised. There are real estate inspectors who must be sponsored and indirectly supervised. So they would be on an inspection, they might be out there, but there's not a supervisor also at the same location with them. Whereas an apprentice would have to have that supervisor present. And then there's professional inspectors who can inspect without sponsorship or supervision. They could run their own business just like a broker could run their own business because of the abilities that license gives them in Texas. I feel like appraisers could I'm going to get an appraiser in here. They usually don't like to talk. They definitely don't like to be on camera. They are their own, they work in numbers, man. They are all about numbers and facts. I'm telling you, I took the first appraisal course, and I think out of all the courses I've taken in real estate, for me, that was the most challenging, for sure. And I was like, I don't want to be an appraiser. I need to play in sales agent and broker land because that is where my brain belongs, because there is a ton that goes into what an appraiser does. In fact, there is an entire different certification board, which is called the Texas Appraiser Licensing and Certification Board, which is run by TREC, but it's kind of its own thing. So if you hate your appraiser, you don't like something, you go to the TALCB to complain. Whereas if you decide you're upset with me, you would go directly to TREC. It's just a different arm of TREC that handles appraisers because there's just so much that goes into that. So I got an interesting question that kind of relates to this. And it was, hey, Jennah, I want to know, like, what is the MLS and how is it different than a realtor.com? Like, why are you always saying, what is it, the MLS? Can I get on the MLS? Who has access? What's going on here? So the MLS is a multiple listing service. That's what those letters stand for. It is an organization. It is created and run by realtors, and you could be a real estate agent, side note, and not a realtor. A realtor, in order to be called a realtor, you have to be part of, it's a professional organization, NAR. So the only people that can say they're realtors are members. I am a member. We vote. We do all these things. We like it. It's good for us. It's good for y'all too. But it's we have our own club basically. So you cannot get onto the MLS unless you have a membership to be a realtor. So all these other websites that you might go to, including mine. So if you go to searsgroup.com, you are going to be able to, I have an app there you can download. You can do home searches there. All of that information is pulled from the MLS, but it is not pulled instantly. The MLS here, I use the North Texas MLS. That's what I'm a member of. That's what I'm a part of. And it's an agreement that we have between brokers that we share information. So just because you go onto my website or if you go onto realtor.com, now realtor.com is owned by NAR, but it's still not the MLS. I can see a lot more data than you're going to be able to see on, say, a realtor.com or a Zillow. Actually, I had a really interesting conversation with one of my sellers yesterday, oddly enough, and he is a Zillow fiend. He loves Zillow, and I get it. It is easy to use. It is helpful. And he called me and said, hey, Jennah, Zillow said the house across the street from me, which is a comp for him, sold for X amount of dollars. Like, what is that? Like, is that true? No, that's a guess. That's not accurate. The only way that Zillow could have had that information, because Texas is a non-disclosure state, and quite honestly, I am very unsure. Somebody had to have told them. They had guessed. I don't really know. But the thing is, the house hadn't closed yet. So until it closes, even I, with full MLS access, I don't know what that sales price was unless I call the owner or one of the agents involved and they choose to tell me. And remember, Texas is a non-disclosure state. So if you get a call from Zillow or anybody else and they're asking you what your house is under contract for, it would be a bad choice, I think, to tell them. Because why? So that is one of the things on the MLS that I can see and I have access to. I can look back in time and I can see, okay, this house has been sold 10 times in the past 10 years. I can see every time it changed. So I can see when it went under contract. I can see when it fell out of contract. I can see if that contract was contingent. I can see what the seller paid, if anything, towards closing. I can see all these things. And that is helpful, and that information helps me do my job. But that information is not all translated to the sites that you are looking at. And that is one of the reasons you need me, because I can tell you, okay, that house across the street, So back to my seller, the house across the street, when I was talking to him, he said, Zillow said it closed for this. And I said, that is impossible, because I was staring at the MLS and it hasn't closed yet. So it actually closed this afternoon. And on the MLS, I can now see what it closed for. And I called him and told him, and it was not the same price that Zillow said. So I want you to be very aware of where you're getting your information from, how you're getting your information from, and where these sources are getting their information from. So I love the MLS. It's very important that I have access to that. And you call a realtor and we'll fill you in and we can tell you what's on there. We can give you a search. My clients have direct access to search from a portal, which is awesome. So that is one of the awesome reasons to use a realtor. So I hope this has been super informative for y'all. Now you know about TREC, you know about licensing, you know who should have a license when you hire them, and you understand a little bit about where this information comes from, how we as real estate professionals get our information, and where our numbers come from, and how we disseminate those numbers to you. So be careful who you trust, be careful who you listen to, do your due diligence, make great choices, and tell your best friend about Come Home with Jennah. I love y'all. I'll see y'all later. And get excited, because next time we're going to be talking about all the different ways your property could be listed on the MLS. What the heck does that mean, Jennah? Well, stick around and you'll find out. Bye.